Hey everybody. I might actually keep this one in time. It is it's like quarter to 11. I'm tired. But I think I'm going to push myself because I've been doing a lot of reflecting today. And I'll get into that in a moment. But there's been a lot on my mind. And I've decided that I'm going to change what's going on here. Not by a lot. Before I was talking more psychological and philosophical, and now it's going to be more biblical. I've been told by multiple sources, throughout my life, I have a certain knack. My brain it works good for Bible study. I'm really good with my deep dives. I connect things that people normally don't in biblical terms to, bring out certain knowledge. Like I said, I've been doing that since I was 12 years old. As I've said before, I've been in and out of the church my whole life. And this time it's for good. But back then I was in the youth group, and we did a thing where the youth group took over the church for the service for one Sunday. And of course I was nominated to be the one to deliver the message, so I took that very seriously. That was when my dad taught me how to use a concordance for the first time. Great bonding moment. And I put one together, and I delivered it. I mean, it was roughshod. I mean, I was a kid, but yeah. And I've grown that skill since then, in different situations. And like I said, I've really got to get better with my Old Testament. This past week in Bible study, like, really, really hit that home to me. So what I'm doing here is, I've seen this resurgence in people looking for the Christian faith. It's a shame that it took such a tragedy to cause it, but I mean, that's how it started, to be honest. So it started with the death of an innocent man. Which, I mean, let's be honest, Charlie was a good guy, but he was human, and he admitted it. We are all human. We are all subject to sin. We are all imperfect. But he was definitely a man of principle. I have always, I mean, one of my tattoos is the old Knight's Code. So, and that means something to me. That's why I got it as permanent on my body. And I always say that's actually a combination of the armor of God and the Beatitudes. I don't have it with me, but maybe next video I'll read it out, what it actually says, and why I associate it between those two. That's what I was doing today. I was doing one of my deep dive Bible studies on a subject, and it humbled me. Because it was something that I wanted to, I felt called to look into, because I was thinking about recent events, and more importantly, the way, some people are reacting to it. And I myself am reacting to those people. That's why I said it was very humbling. But yeah, probably when I'm done this, I'm going to record it. If not, I'll do it tomorrow morning. But I did a deep dive on, words, what you say, what's coming out of your mouth, the speech you use. And the Bible had a lot to say about that. Yeah. Like I said, I took that very deep dive. But on top of that, a little known fact about me, a secret, not many but a handful of people know, is that technically, and there's a reason I'm even bringing this up, that technically I am ordained as a minister. And I say technically because it was an online course. I have not been to seminary. I don't claim to be. I am not a religious leader. I am not any kind of figure. I'm just a guy with knowledge. The only reason I even got the ordination, and this was back in 2012, is I got it because there was a few weddings of people I knew that were supposed to be in progress, and I said, okay, I'll save them all some money. I'll get ordained. So instead of them paying somebody to do it, I could do it for them. And ironically, none of those weddings ever happened. I still have not done a wedding. I have done 3 memorial services, though. But yeah, legally I can. I got a fancy card. Very fancy. But I want to read to you what it says on the back. Because again, I think it's important. It's great that people want to take the step forward, right? But you got to do it the right way. Again, I claim nothing because I haven't done it. I haven't put the work in. But again, I'll get to what I'm thinking of. It says, this credential may not be utilized as a document to establish identity. The Universal Life Church Ministries certifies that the bearer of this credential, whose name appears on the face of this card, is an ordained minister. This certificate of ordination is granted for life, and the bearer hereof is entitled to perform all ministerial services, including baptisms, marriages, funerals, and all other privileges and considerations usually granted to a minister. You notice how that was worded. The minister must be familiar with all local laws before performing marriages. The Universal Life Church Ministries assumes no responsibility for any actions undertaken by the bearer hereof for any purpose other than for which it is issued. This credential does not certify knowledge of certain beliefs, practices, procedures, and or requirements of any particular denomination or belief system. And that is very clearly, but, I did tell Pastor on Sunday that I want to step up. I am inspired, just like so many others right now. Something else that card grants me is access to institutions. Jails, prisons, rehab facilities. And again, I know it's not my purpose to be a leader. But I do have the ability and the knowledge to help others, find certain knowledge. So, it's a shame that I don't drive anymore, because it would make it a lot easier. But it is possible that I could do like an outreach, be a representative of a church if they would like to, and I could go and, because I remember when I myself was institutionalized, what an impact that had. So, that's just something that, has been on my mind, and I would definitely like to do. But again, that's why I read the back of the card, and I'm establishing this point. I'm not quite ready yet. I still need, there's a lot I need to learn myself before I try and teach others. All I do here is, share my thoughts. A lot of things, again, when I do a Bible study, I'm just here to share as I'm learning. But that's going to be my goal. So I am going to continue the way I have with, in this series, the Breaking Free series, because I am going to continue it. It's going to, just be about, in general, my thoughts, ideas, and general growth. How to make improvements in your life or to your character. Something I learned today, I was, again, on my deep dive, it was humbling, but something amusing. I discovered that FAFO, fool around, find out, is biblical. That kind of made me chuckle. And it makes me think of, that Star Trek episode, Next Generation, where Picard is representing Worf, and they're trying to be threatening, and his response, and I'm paraphrasing, but it's along the lines of, you may test that assumption at your next convenience, or something to that effect. That elegant way of saying FAFO, yeah, there's a biblical way to say it too. And it's in Proverbs chapter 18, verses 6 and 7. A fool's lips enter into contention, and his mouth calls for blows. A fool's mouth is his destruction, and his lips are the snare of his soul. So again, I'm not saying, don't go, I'm not going to be like those guys. I'm not saying go punch somebody in the mouth. And I hope you understand that too. Just because it's biblical, it's not our job. But I just thought it was amusing, the way it was worded, and how, again, I was humbled, and that's how God humbles us. I did this to learn. That's why I put together this Bible study that I'm getting ready to, it's a deep dive. Because I understood there are corrections that I need to make myself. And that's how I'm going to do it. By how I should. And the other bit of scripture that I wanted to share, I actually mentioned it the other day, but now I actually have the reference, so I can tell you where to find it. It is the shortest verse in the Bible. It's 2 words, but it's also the biggest, because those 2 words are the weight of the world, right? And it's John 11:35. Jesus wept. And when I say it's the weight of the world, I'm not implying that's actually not when Jesus was heading up to the cross. That was when he had got news of his friend Lazarus, and he was empathizing and sympathizing with his family. And again, context is important, but Jesus is the example. He was perfection. He was complete. And, again, we're all human. We all, fall short. But I think Charlie came close. Again, I didn't personally know the man, but everything I've seen of him, he had a lot better control of his mouth than I do. And again, that's why I did this study, and I'm going to work on that. I need to. But yeah, I'm inspired, and I'm glad to see others, the same. So again, I just wanted to give that update of what I plan to do with the channel. And again, share my thoughts of what else I'm going to do. And some food for thought. So have empathy. If your friends are happy, be happy with them. If your friends are sad, be sad with them. But use your discernment. Don't let the anger of a friend allow hatred into your heart. You got to be real careful about that. Again, that's why I reiterated about the FAFO. The Bible is heavy on accountability. It really is. That's why I'm loving this surge of accountability. It's not cancel culture. It is accountability culture. And again, I'm all for it. And it's not because, again, politically, I did not admire Charlie for his politics. Because I am not political. I am aware that both wings are the same vulture. Right? Both puppets have the same masters. Doesn't matter which one you follow. Right? A lot of people, they want to argue that. Whatever. Again, I'm not here to talk politics. That's why I stay out of them. But I did appreciate Charlie for his, faith, his example that he set, and his work as a peacemaker. And here lately I've seen, again, I talk about the psychological, a lot of people are revealing themselves with sociopathic tendencies. And if you look into that, again, there's warnings there. And there has been a mental health crisis in this country for a while that has been talked about, but nothing's been done about it. And what happened to Charlie is an example. Because again, people, instead of hearing or seeing reality, are in this contentious, rebellious culture that they just got to be oppositional, and it's dangerous. If because they have such a misunderstanding and hatred of what they think people and religion is, they refuse to hear anything otherwise, you know. And it's very true. You cannot meet somebody at a level that you have not met yourself. And I'm glad that Charlie, this tragedy with him inspired a lot of people, to step up. Like myself, that's what I want to do. But yeah. So, and I still ended up going over time. I got a couple things to do for my notes, and then I'll probably go ahead and record that Bible study tonight. And if not, again, you can look for it tomorrow afternoon, because I'll probably record it in the morning. Until then, take care of yourself, try and help take care of each other, and I'll see you in the next one.